Hello, people. How you doing today? Um, how you doing, James?
Hey, doing really well. How are you?
Good. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lee Cole 3 podcast with my partner, James. And we're going to be talking about something that is real interesting. Once again, let me remove this camera a little bit. There we go. Once again, uh, it's been proven, and we're going to show you some more evidence too, that Sammy Gravano is lying about the death of Louis Dibono and exactly how it went down. Why don't you start? Mikey Scars started this conversation today. Why don't
Yeah.
you? Let's hit the basics on the conversation.
Yeah, and so Mikey Scars was talking about the Louis DeBono hit, and he had mentioned that Sammy and DeBono had problems going back into the early '80s, and in fact, Sammy had accused DeBono of stealing from the family and put his hands on DeBono, and and that ended up causing DeBono to go to his capo Patsy Conte, who went to Big Paul, and basically is a big sit down. And Sammy was, according to Sammy, was could have gotten whacked over what he did, and so obviously no one got killed from that sit down, but that just shows that they had problems going back into the early '80s.
And Sammy already had a history of problems with the Columbos. That's why he became into the Gambinos. And here he is in the beginning with the Gambinos, and he's having trouble with another Louis DeBono.
Yeah.
Would you say it was pretty much because I believe that right off the bat, Sammy Gravano wanted Louis DeBono's business?
Yeah, he did, and they were. So what happened, especially in the early '80s, you got to understand that Sammy didn't have all the companies he did in 1989 and '90, but he did have a sheetrock company. He was doing construction, but Louis DeBono had already been established by that time and was a made guy as well, and so there's probably some jealousy there with Sammy, but obviously there was. They both were involved in construction rackets in Manhattan and Brooklyn.
Right. And at that time, DeBono was bigger than Sammy.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he had the contract of everything going around the trade center. I mean, this guy had parking lots. He had a lot of stuff, and he was the guy that was known in New York City at that time of being the number one Gambino guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, for construction rackets, he definitely was. In the early '80s.
Okay, and so Sammy has a lot of different stories. First, we're going to play a quick video, a 2-minute video that Mikey Scars put out. And please, if you want to go to Mikey Scars' Patreon channel, do it because you can see the full video there. But we're going to put up the short on this. And then you guys we'll play it, and then we're going to discuss it some more. And then we're going to play a little bit of evidence with a 302 that Sammy did, where we're going to catch Sammy in another lie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll scatter your brains all over the wall.
That's Sammy's words. Boom, right up.
Sammy, we'll work this out.
Sammy felt he was being robbed.
He wanted Conti to go to Paul Castellano and get permission.
Defying the boss of the family in front of everybody by saying, I don't want to shake his hand.
DeBono did have a reputation for kind of being a swindler.
DeBono lies and says that and puts Sammy on the spot. Sammy just threatened him. And that is the story I heard.
They both hate each other. Why the fuck would they get back in business together for?
1000% Sammy. I will tell you why. It's so simple.
Greed. Greed puts them in business together.
Sammy's starting to wind up with everything. They go to Patsy Conte and say, hey, Patsy, where's this guy? He ain't taking no more money. Where was he giving Paul? Where's the jobs? Give us money. Well, I question that also. You have to call a lumber yard to find out the price of sheetrock. You're buying sheetrock all over the place. And he's very good at telling the story. Again, I was impressed. He's very good. He's very good. He had me glued. Again, like saying, did this really happen this way? He's good. He's going to die for no other reason.
Joe comes to Sammy, hey, can you get me some work with DeBono?
For the third time. And Sammy was driven to kill this guy. And John did not want Sammy on this hit because this would have been another hit. Another guy Gravano was involved with. And John didn't want to make the perception be out there that Sammy was driving to kill another guy.
Isn't Gotti complaining to Lucasio that he's not getting no money?
He keeps asking him, John, at the end when he gives him the card, he mocks John. Like, yeah, I found it. What do you want to do? Jack Colucci killed his father when he was.
Okay, why don't you explain that rundown of what they're discussing right there?
Yeah, so we kind of brought it up at the beginning of this video where we talked about what happened, back in the early 80s, but then, now we're back to December 12th, 1989. They were talking about the tapes that John Gotti and Lucasio were talking about Louie Dibono. And so what basically is happening is that Mikey's asking why, and RJ's asking why would Sammy go back in business with Louie, and so it's obviously due to greed. Sammy wants his business. They were both in construction rackets separately. They ended up working together. The relationship's not working well, and I know there's a backstory, obviously, regarding an outstanding tax bill, which
Right.
caused a
We'll
disagreement.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Right.
But one thing is, John Gotti, he says that John Gotti told him to go back in business with him. There's no evidence that John Gotti told him to go back into business with Dibono. There's none. Sure, he had to go to Gotti and ask it, but he wasn't ordered by Gotti to go back into business with him. He wanted the man's business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's obvious that he had some big huge contracts. Louie Dibono did. He's a big deal, so not a small guy. And so, yeah, that's definitely was the case.
Okay, so now they're planning the hit on Louie Dibono.
Mhm.
Explain how that goes down, and then I'm going to show the 302 and explain what Sammy said on the 302, how it went down.
Yeah, so when you listen to the tapes, what had happened was that Frankie and John are talking about it, and basically they're saying that that he's being killed for no other reason for not showing up, and so Louie Dibono is, knows that there's an issue with Sammy. He doesn't want to come in because, look at all the other business people that Sammy has killed, people that he's worked with, and so what ends up happening is that John has a dilemma. So, he is going to give the order to kill Dibono because he won't come in,
Right.
but he will not give it to Sammy because, what does that show everyone within the family? Sammy is continuing to kill everybody he goes in business with. So,
and Sammy said that this whole thing started over. This is important too. That this whole thing started over sheetrock, and what Mikey Scars is explaining is Sammy was a contractor, and so was Dibono. They knew these prices. He gives up the story that he called the hardware store literally.
Yeah.
And he got a different price, and then he makes up this story that he goes and there's no evidence that he went and threatened to throw somebody out a window and so he has Dibono being the worst guy in the world. These guys are both bad guys, but it's like who's gonna get who first? They both want each other dead.
Well, exactly. And so what John ends up doing is he will not give the job to Sammy, and so it goes to Bobby Borriello and Charlie Corniglia and some kid named Tony, according to Gravano's testimony. Right. I'm not sure who Tony is, but that's what.
And I want you now. I'm going to play this part, and let's listen to what Sammy says, and then I'm going to read what he said in this 302. So this is, and people, I'm going to tell you something. With Sammy Gravano, this is all you got to do. Is you can go to there's a site that you can go to, the Smoking Gun, and it has all his 302s and all the murders that were committed. And he tells exactly what he did. And now that he's on doing these shows on here, he tells totally different stories. So no one's picking on Sammy. Sammy, the evidence is there when your 302s don't match up to your shows. Okay, let's play this.
when I take a plea, I'm charged with that murder. Not that I have really any part of it, but I gave that information.
Sammy thinks that given information to have somebody killed, he makes him not having no part of that murder, even though he got charged with it. I mean, he put the whole thing in, once he found out the card, and once he found out where Dibono was, he's the one that went back and told John Gotti where he was. And now here he is on, I had nothing to do with it. It sounds like Jimmy Calandro when he runs to the door next to the guy that shoots the woman. He had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but the feds, they said there's 19 murders that Sammy's involved in. We know he didn't pull the trigger on but a couple of them, but why would Louie Dibono be one of the 19 if he wasn't one that, if the feds didn't believe that he was involved in it?
And you know what, James? I'm going to show you on the 302 right after we finish playing this clip.
Yep.
That makes me part of the murder, but I really did nothing. Other guys did it. I don't even know who the fuck did it exactly. Which guy? I had no interest. I still have no interest.
You hear what he says?
That's bull. That's bull crap because he went to Bobby Boria. Yeah,
that's what I'm going to pull up. Up. Okay, so here's what's happening. He's saying that he has no idea who did the murders. He knows nothing about it. Okay, but here we go. Let's take this down. Okay, and we'll stop the screen, and then we're going to go over here and get something else for Sammy. Let's see. This is a debriefing. This is part of his 302, and you can find this, and I talk about this all the time, people, and people don't go to the Smoking Gun. All you got to do is go to Google, put Smoking Gun, Sammy Gravano, all his 302s come up. Have you ever looked at these 302s on the Smoking Gun, James?
Oh yeah, I've been there all the time. It's one of my regular. I've got it bookmarked and everything. It's actually very good resource.
It is. It's amazing stuff. And this is when I used to start reading this stuff, and that's when I started realizing that Sammy was lying. When I first started in this, the main reason I came on here was because I used to watch Sammy Gravano. And I would read these 302s and say, they're not matching up. They're not matching up to what Sammy's saying.
Right.
So, okay, so let me see. Right here it says, okay, Sammy Gravano was told by John Gambino that Dibono began working in the World Trade Center. Joe Madonna also told Sammy about this and gave Louie Dibono's business card. And then he gave it to John Gotti. So that part he got right. Borriello told Sammy Gravano that he, Carniglia, and a guy named Tony Vinciulo were going to do the Dibono murder. After Dibono was killed, Borriello told him that Vinciulo drove the car while Carniglia and Borriello actually approached Dibono and shot him. So here he is in this video saying he has no idea who did the shooting and he doesn't care. But in this 302, he's telling the feds who did it.
Right. And then he even was worried about the hit because he was thinking they would hear something on the news. And he goes back to Bobby Borriello to ask him, what happened? Why haven't we heard anything? And Borriello said, I'm not sure. So, it's just very definitely not true what Sammy's saying in his podcast.
And, and another thing he talks about, let's read this right here. Well, he's talking about the whole thing was based over taxes, and he's saying that he ordered Dibono to pay the taxes. First of all, at that point, Sammy wasn't even the underboss, so I don't see how he ordered them to pay it. They're both about the same rank at that time, aren't they not?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, he was the consigliere.
Yeah, okay, so, okay, even if he was the underboss at that time, okay, say he went over and he told him to pay the tax bill, but there's nothing on these 302s about this plaster. There's nothing nowhere.
Nope.
And it's part of his story now. And this is what he does. He invents these stories, makes them it's like Mikey Scars said. He knows how to tell a great story,
Yeah,
but that doesn't make it true.
exactly. It doesn't.
So, what do you think when you listen to Michael? What else did Michael say in that show?
Yeah, so I mean, really, the other couple other things, minor points. He's saying so. People are asking him, why are you going after Sammy? And so what Mikey's saying is, he wants the story told for the families in history. He says that history needs to be put back in its proper place. And then Mikey doubled down and says that Gravano's stories will be challenged as he sees them unfold, and he's going to correct the lies that Sammy says that Mikey knows is not true.
A lot of these lies come out of movies. Basically, he walks into
Mhm.
an office and tells the guy he's going to throw him out the window.
Yeah.
Then he tells the guy to go open the window, and he tells the guy, "You're not walking out of here. You're going to go out through the window."
Hmm.
This is the stuff. Smart on Sammy's part. He's putting a lot of excitement into his stories,
Sure.
but it's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely not true. And there's definitely other cases. He made some. Later on, Sammy was trying to help Lacasio get out of prison, and then there's a lot of even weird testimony that Sammy was mistaking even years later. So we won't get into it today, but
Yeah,
there's
we're gonna
still more stuff.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna break these stories down.
Yeah.
And I tell this to people all the time. Go to the 302s.
Yeah.
They don't match, especially the Alan Kaiser killing. It does
Mhm.
not match. It doesn't even come close to matching what Sammy's saying on these interesting podcast shows.
Right. Well, I
Uh,
mean, as Sammy is definitely, as Mikey said, Sammy tells a good story. He's glued to the screen. Mikey's glued to the screen, and it is captivating. I mean, especially with Our Thing, the way it was produced, it was definitely a well produced documentary of Sammy's version of revisionist history.
well, I'm glad that he's not doing this R thing anymore because the R thing was very effective. And
Hmm.
it basically helped him change mob history. Now that he's doing these
Exactly.
lives, every time he says something, you have someone that was with him calling him out on it. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where I come from on this. I know some people are saying, "Oh, well, both of them are rats or whatever." I don't. That doesn't matter to me in this case. I'm not. I have my view on that, but what I want to know is history. I want to know what really happened. Is this true or not? I don't want a mistaken or revisionist version of history out there. That's not fair to the families of the victims. It's not fair to us. Do we need to be, told a bag of lies and just believe it? That's where I'm coming from.
And there's
Yeah,
pictures of that people can see on the internet of the Dibono hit where he's laying in the car and his face is
exactly.
swollen with bullets in them. I mean, I
Yep.
can't put those up because YouTube will delay this show a couple days.
Yeah.
But there's stuff out there that shows you how brutal this is. To think that this man, to this day, this man, when he talks about Dibono, who's dead now for 20 years,
Yeah.
when he talks about him, he still talks to him with a disdain
Oh
and a
yeah.
hate. And the guy's dead. It's like, dude, man, you got the guy killed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his nickname was Jelly Belly, and it's not fair to DeBono's still got family out there. It just has to be a slap in the face to hear someone that they love being lied about.
And as a matter of fact,
Basically.
his family, his widow did come out and
Hmm.
was talking about Sammy making money off stories and stuff,
Yeah.
including with Louie Dibono.
Yes.
They're kind of lucky though because Louis was killed at the Trade Center, so they couldn't take his body up. Sammy used to make the bodies disappear.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but John was smart because this was the last killing on Sammy Gravano's record, and it was the last order given by John Gotti.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite obvious that John Gotti, unfortunately, listened a little bit too much to Sammy Gravano, who was deceiving him just to have people killed for business reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And, when one of the tragedies in this as well is, Locascio was charged and found guilty of conspiracy on that murder. And, when you look back at the tapes and testimony, it doesn't seem like he was really that involved. I mean, obviously Locascio had done stuff that would
Of course.
require prison time, but on this being found guilty, that was
And
a
he's
mistake.
guilty of Sammy walking into a club and telling him the story.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I mean,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
matter of fact, Sammy even put John Jr. into killing, saying that he was originally was supposed to track him down, and then he was kind of mocking Jr., saying that Jr. couldn't find him. He was like kind of making fun of him. But in the end, Jr. was no place to be seen in the murder.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've heard Sammy mention that Junior was involved in that, but you don't see that when you start looking at the evidence. So another
if Junior was
mistake.
involved with that murder, it would have been on the 302, and Junior
Yeah.
would have been arrested for that.
Yeah, exactly. So
wasn't
that's
arrested.
another case that's not true.
And this is how you could break Sammy down. You're going to bring and then when he's talking about Junior, he says, "Oh, he didn't know nothing about hits. He should have never been given." It's like you can hear the hate coming from his heart for Dibono, for Junior, for John Gotti.
Yeah.
He has this hate in his heart, and to this day, he still has the same hate. It hasn't changed, and he's almost 80.
Yeah, anyone that he doesn't like, you look at Eddie, his brother-in-law or whatever he was in business with. He makes him sound like he's just a bad swindler guy, and Mikey has a different opinion of him.
Yeah.
And so I mean, they're all bad guys, but at the same time, Sammy is always going to demonize the people he doesn't like. He's going to say good things about the people he likes, but most importantly, it's going to be about him being the hero, him being the one that that was the big guy out there.
Well, here's two challenges I like to make to Mikey Scars. One is John A. Light. Mikey Scars does not talk about John A. Light that often, and it's obvious that in '91 he was driven away from the family. I think that he needs to speak about that and what he thinks of John A. Light.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to see him talk about more stuff with other guys that are telling fairy tales besides Sammy Gravano.
Right.
I can understand him concentrating right now on Sammy Gravano. But I want to see some John A. Light stuff.
Yeah, I know what they're doing is that, they have a, for right or for wrong, what they're doing is they have a certain formula they're using. So first they were going to go through all the tapes, the Gotti tapes. And now they've been going through, Junior's book and things that, Mikey was in that time frame with Junior. And so, especially A-Light, because I'm sure that, he would have known about, A-Light because they were at the same time.
Well, this is one of the issues that with Mikey Scars and John A-Light, they kind of buddied up a while back.
Okay, I see.
See, and that's why I like to see some honest stuff done on John A-Light. I'm not the only person that wants to see that. There's other people too that would like to see that. And that's why I'm mentioning it right now. Because I'm hoping that he would watch this and he hears what I'm saying. But John A-Light, please tell us what you think about John A-Light. Okay.
Yeah.
James, is there anything that you would like to tell? It's obvious that Michael likes to watch this stuff. So what would you like to tell him? Oh,
no. I mean, I really, as a researcher and historian, I really like the job that him and RJ are doing. I'm a member of the Patreon channel, you know, and I take it more like that. You know, I don't make any of these guys heroes or good guys, but you know, it's good to, you know, have a proper place of history.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And I'm looking
Yep.
forward to more stuff that Mikey Scars says.
Sure.
I know we've done some videos on Mikey Scars going into Sammy already. And
Yep.
people, we're going to do more because when he comes out, he brings out some facts that are needed.
Yep.
And just the Bono killing too. And don't get me wrong, from what it sounded like, Louie Dibono was a ruthless, greedy man himself.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah. I mean, that was true. He was definitely, you know, big into
And Sammy
making money.
Gravano was a hell of a chess player. While these guys were playing checkers, Sammy knew what he was doing. I mean, when you get in bed to battle the devil,
Yeah.
in the end, everybody's dead except Sammy Gravano.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, so we could say whatever we want about him, but that's the fact. People,
Yep.
I'd like to thank you for being here, and I'm going to put up one quick thing. If you would like to donate to this show, you can hit the heart underneath and donate, or you can send something to the Cash App or the PayPal. It would be appreciated. If you cannot do it, totally understand. But besides that, that's it, people. James, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And we have a nice interview coming out probably tomorrow or Monday. It depends if YouTube lets us put it out right away. It's always like
Right.
that.
Right.
So it's going to be, let's hope we could put that interview out tonight. Tomorrow, it's going to be a surprise interview. I've had this gentleman on once before, but he's very well liked and respected. And I'm looking forward to coming out and interviewing him. James, you take care. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Take care.
And please hit that like button and sub if you have not subbed. Getting near 10,000 people.